Hello and welcome back to Future Proof. You're listening to Sarah Hopwood as I interview people as they discuss emotional intelligence and actually what the future looks like for them and the business world. And I've been delighted that I have Tim Loughton in the studio now, and he's been talking about mindfulness and how he's actually running something for Parliament around mindfulness. And we want to continue now to talk about the future of Parliament too. So thank you very much for joining me again, Tim. Thank you for staying with me. So just remind us again exactly what it is you do around mindfulness, because it's really worth repeating again. But also, can I ask you, if I was applying for your job in 10 years' time...
You're welcome.
What will Parliament look like? This programme has already discussed artificial intelligence, machine learning and what have you. Is there going to be any of this stuff in Parliament? So I'll just remind us around the mindfulness first, and then answer.
Okay, well, mindfulness, it was back in 2013, I think, that we set up an all-party group for mindfulness, and we started running mindfulness courses, which are run by the Oxford Mindfulness Centre. So we've got some of the great experts who've been promoting this stuff. Once a week, run these classes for MPs and members of the Lords and for staff in Parliament. 240 MPs and Lords have done it so far.
And that's cross-party?
Entirely cross-party. And I think it has really improved the respect that people have for each other on different sides of the chamber, and there's a bit more of a calmness and perspective that's come about people who've done that course as well. It's certainly calmed down some of the more fearsome hecklers and debaters in Parliament. But we are practicing what we preach, because mindfulness, I think, has a place. If you look at its applications in business, lots of employers now are bringing in mindfulness. London Transport brought it in a few years ago for all its employers, and their absenteeism rate has fallen by 71%. 71%. A happier, stable workforce is a more productive workforce as well. In schools, they are making mindfulness available across the whole school, so mindfulness school, and it's not stigmatizing like other mental illness approaches. It's something that kids love doing and can help everybody with sort of low-level depression, mental illness. It's working in prisons, and it's working in the NHS as alternatives to drugs as well. It's just one element, non-invasive, and it can be done anytime, any place, anywhere. And I've described it as like jogging in the 1970s is now mainstreamed, and I think looking after our mental health is just as important as looking after our physical health, particularly with all the big pressures from social media.
But also they're linked. Medics say that they are linked. Particularly chronic mental health has a physical manifestations, and there are many physical illnesses that can be linked back to a thinking issue. And
vice versa, that if you've got a long-term condition, it can lead to depression and everything else as well. And using mindfulness techniques can help deal with sort of pain control as well on long-term conditions. But I mean, it's different things for different people, but we need everything we can in modern society. All the pressures, particularly on our kids these days, and this is something that's flexible, adaptable, that anybody can take up, and it's quite fun as well.
So I apply for your job in 10 years' time, all right, 20 years' time. What will it look like? With artificial intelligence around, is it going to invade? Is it going to be part of Parliament?
I think the way we engage and communicate with politics will change. When I became an MP 22 years ago, no emails, we barely got mobile phones, internet had only really just started, so people would write to you using that old-fashioned thing called a pen and a piece of paper, actually have to put a stamp on it, put it in the post box, or send you a postcard or whatever. A lot more effort involved. Now I get 300 emails a day, and so people can communicate with their MPs much more quickly and effectively, which is good. But the trouble is, too much of that is just circular, identical emails where they just have to press the forward button. Now, to me, if somebody feels passionately and strongly about something that they want to communicate with their MP, then they should be able to put it in their own experiences, their own words. And actually, that's far more valuable for an MP. I can get up in a debate and say, I've had 500 identical emails from people complaining about this bit of legislation. Or I can get up and say, I've got 100 letters here, and Mrs. Blogs at Acacia Avenue, if this law goes through, this is how it's going to affect her, or Mr. Watson. That is far more powerful for an MP. So that has changed over the last 22 years. The nature of the job, in terms of relying on individuals to make often difficult decisions. You may want
See, a robot can't do that.
And a robot can't do that because our decisions are not just, this is our policy, we now need to execute it. I mean, look over Brexit, you know, what has that become, how we juggle with the different aspects of that now. But then when you've got moral issues, so how's a robot going to vote on abortion, on capital punishment, on genetic engineering and things like that? And you need to have a group of people who can have a free and open debate and come up with a decision which they hope can take the majority of the country with you. And those are the most difficult things that a robot is not going to be able to do in a month of Sunday.
So it won't do the decision making, but what we might see is maybe a meet and greet kind of idea. I mean, obviously we don't know, but if there is a role, then it would be something that is repetitive. I don't know what it is, making tea, or I don't know how it works. But
I think gathering people's ideas. So now we have a system where if 100,000 people sign a petition, then it will get debated in Parliament, and that's been happening a lot. Now, lots of people write to me and say, oh, the vast majority of people now think this. Well, I have got 75,000 voters in my constituency, so in order for somebody to say that, they must know what 38,000 of my constituents actually know, and of course they don't, because I will get hundreds, occasionally thousands of letters from constituents, emails from constituents on a certain issue. In the future, I think there might be an easier way for more people to plug in what their thoughts are, and it's a question of then, do the MPs have to take note of what a majority is then saying, or are we still expected to weigh up the pros and cons and make our own decision? That I think is how technology may change things in the future, but robots cannot make those sorts of difficult decisions.
No. So staying in line with thinking of I think sort of the prepping moving forward. I know you've got children, and your daughter is at Cambridge, I think, and how many years has she done there? Is she due to leave? She has one more year left, and I've got two children who've just graduated and one who's been working for a couple of years now as well. Right, okay. So, your children, like ours, are right in that mix. We've literally just got a couple of minutes or more. How, as a father, have you tried to help prepare your children, or how have you fielded some of their questions about uncertainty for the future? What wisdom have you been able to give them? I think these days it's more what wisdom they give me. This is a completely different generation in terms of how they use their technology, where they get their information from. It's all over social media, it's all over the internet. They do not sit down and watch the 6 o'clock BBC News or a traditional paper. But the issue is, I think fake news is a really big thing. So whereas most people could sort of trust the BBC or what you read on the front page of a mainstream newspaper, with all this stuff on social media, you have got to really work out what is true and what is not. And I think that's one of the real challenges facing our young people today, and that's why the internet is a double-edged sword for people who are impressionable, who can be radicalized, who can be susceptible to sexual exploitation or self-harm and all these sorts of things. So my advice to them is always, you need to be resilient, you need to be flexible, but you need to question the sources of information you get as well. But above all, you need to enjoy life and your job, and you need to live for the moment too, because nothing these days is certain. You don't leave school now and you're going to that job for the next 45 years. You're going to retire at 67. You're going to get your pension, and you're going to have your kids at age whatever. The life just isn't like that anymore. So make the most of it and have fun. We have a joke actually about pensions. We're not quite there yet, but we said we'll be in line, and then just as we get to the old glass, the blind will come down. That's the end of that. That's enough. But what I think you're saying, and you've mentioned the word resilience a couple of times, and it's the advice you give your children, and it's to you it's a link to emotional intelligence, and I think you've linked that to mindfulness, you've linked that to and that suspended thinking, being careful of fake news, and fun. I think you're right. There's no point getting off of this planet, if you like, not having had fun. So absolutely. Resilience, to doing. Keep doing what is right, what feels right to you. If you're not sure, suspend, exercise some mindfulness, and then when you do make that decision to either stay off of social media or to actually put your ladder against a wall and start climbing up a mountain, then do it and keep doing it and persist.
And speak to people and socialise with people. In an age where we've
Face
never
to
been
face.
able to communicate more easily, people don't.
Thank you, Tim. Bless you. Thank you very much for joining me.
Pleasure.
Bless you. Thank you.